Hi, I'm Mike Hillier. We're going to be talking through some drum mixing in Pro Tools for the DSP project today.
I'm going to start listening to this drum recording we've made. We've got everything on multi-tracks. I'm going to start by, the first thing I like to do is just the room mics, just in isolation. It gives you an idea of what the kit sounded like when you were recording it in the room. What we've got there is nice, open, clean, roomy sound. Just going to take out a little of the low end. I'm going to use the Waves Renaissance EQ. Put that into high pass mode. I don't want to take out too much with the high pass, but I'm just going to clean up the sub a little bit. I'm going to put another EQ on the overhead, and we'll listen to that with the room. It'll give us an idea of the full kit. Be a bit more judicious with your high pass on the overhead. So already we're getting quite a nice. It's just a nice kit that we've recorded in the room. It's very natural sounding. If you compare that to some of the close mics that we've got, if I solo up the kick drum, for example, and the snare, you end up with something really dry. It doesn't really sound like what you'd want from a kick or a snare. When you put them back in with everything else, it's quite a nice sound. Now what I'm noticing already is my kick bus is clipping, but we'll sort that out once we get onto processing all the sounds. I never let everything go through this loud anyway. So when we had the room and the overhead, as I said, we took the sub out. We're going to put that back in with the kick drums. So if we just two kick mics, we've got a kick in, which was if I remember rightly, an AKG D12, the old style ones, and then the kick out, which was a Neumann FET 47. So listen to the two of those just in isolation. If I take off the room and the overheads, it's really dry. You've got kick in, and you've got kick out. There's quite a lot of attack on the kick out, quite a lot of shell noise. The kick in's got, surprisingly, given that it's that way around, kick in's got quite a lot of sub. Okay, so I'm just going to listen to the kick in mic, which is, as I say, was the AKG D12. It's got a really nice kind of sub to it, and you can just hear the beta through it as well, but there's not a massive amount else. So we're just going to try and pull out the beta from that. Already getting an idea of where it is. There we go, around 4K we can really hear that beta coming through. What I also want to bring in, because what we heard earlier was when we were soloing the in's got quite a nice low end to it. Now I don't want to bring up too much of the really low end. I'm going to bring out we just heard a clip, so I'm just going to bring the gain for the whole channel down. This is one of the problems with additive EQ, is you tend to run the risk of clipping. That's why a lot of people suggest just using subtractive EQ, but it's not always the best choice. If you want to bring something out, it can help take things away, can emphasize things. Your other thing you can do is just turn the gain down. If we now bring that in with the kick out, here you're getting a much stronger beta kind of sound. But I just want to try and get some of the shell from the Neumann mic, which we placed about a foot outside the kick drum. This one I do want to get rid of some of the low end on. And again, actually get rid of some of those mids. Okay, so listen to that. It's still a little flabby. You can probably afford to take that down and bring that up a little bit. If we bring them in together, this is both kick mics, and then we want to balance the two together. Being really important that the two both come down, because you've got a kick auxiliary channel you can bring them both up on if you need to. And you don't want that kick channel clipping at all. So what I've done there, we've EQ'd the kick out and the kick in separately. Both went through a little compression while they were being recorded. I think we went through a distressor. But the settings were just such that they'll catch peaks rather than specifically being set up to shape the sound in any way. So it's quite a natural sounding kick drum. If we bring that in with our room mics, we get an idea of what it really sounds like all together. You get that idea of the kicks now starting to pump. We're getting quite a bit of low end from it. But it would be quite nice if we could just bring it up. Really take hold of that low end. So I'm going to shove a compressor across the kick bus channel. Now I've got quite a lot of compressors to go with, but just show you what you can do with built-in Pro Tools plugins rather than something proprietary. We just kick on its own. I mean, that's way too much. So the nice thing about this plugin is you can see visually where your peaks are hitting really quickly, and you know, I just want to be controlling the peaks on that. So if I move the threshold up, just take hold of it a little. Ratio of between 3 and 4. It's a kick drum. It's the direct one. We're getting most of our sound from the room anyway, so we can be, you know, you can shape this quite a lot if you want. I don't really, you know, the knee, just kind of soften up the attack of the compressor. Got a bit faster on the attack. Much faster on the release. It's doing quite a lot there, but if you listen to it in context of the track, it's really filling out that low end. And it's really important to always listen to what you've got in the track, not just assume because you've got a great sounding kick drum that your kick drum's going to work on, you know, within the greater track. Bring in those overheads, the room mic, get an idea of where the kick sits with the whole mix. Next thing to do, I tend to work across kick and snare. I think need to sit really nicely, and I kind of like to listen to my kick and snare just together in solo. So I might, for instance, just listen to the kick and the snare channels with no room and overhead. Because because I like to know that they're going to bounce off each other. So my snare, we've got a top and a bottom mic. The top was a Heil PR20, the bottom I believe was a Shure 57. Again, they've had a little bit of compression going in. They went, again, I believe it was another distressor on the top mic. So we can EQ those. Now I'm on everything, with the exception of kick drum, a high-pass filter freak. You don't need it. The sub isn't necessary on any channel except kick and bass, so get rid of it. Cleans it up, gives more room for the kick in the mix, makes everything sound a bit better. So if we start just a snare top, if I put that into solo, quite a lot of shell off that, quite a lot of ring off it. So just take out a little bit of mids. And compare that with the snare bottom, which is all the actual rattle of that snare itself. That's you can do quite a lot with the snare bottom because you're not going to use much of it in your mix. It's nice. It really brings a kind of, when they're together, really brings a kind of explosive factor to the snare. Now the other thing I might want to do at this point, because this is just our snare channel soloed and we're getting quite a lot of bleed from the hi-hats, from the toms when he hits those rolls. So we can put just a gate across it. Now that's shaping it a lot and not really what I'm going to want to do. And you're not really going to be able to take the rolls out too much if you bring the ratio down. You can actually end up doing is shaping the snare itself. You take a bit of that ring out of it, get a drier sound. So if you compare that with what we had before, now on its own it sounds a bit odd, but in context of the whole track, actually the gating on the snare helps to shape it, brings a snappier kind of sound to it, gives us something we can work with. And if we do something similar to the snare bottom, just shape the attack and release of the gate. It's probably the most important parameters you've got here. And then bring the top back in. Really taken hold, blocked out some of the hi-hat, giving us control of the snare again. And we can put on some compression across the bus. I don't want too much. As I said, I was compressing on recording for this. But we can get a little out of it. really makes the snare explode in your face. Just a little bit too much from it. So you're only getting maybe 1 dB of gain reduction, but it's really making a difference to the snare. And then again, if we listen in context of the whole track, snares really come to life.